In some shows, there are moments when characters reveal that they know they're part of a cartoon, the famous fourth wall break. It may not seem like it at first, but Peppa Pig has several fourth wall breaking moments that fans often don't even notice. A message from the Animators. In the episode Paper Games, Madame Gazelle teaches the children how to make several drawings that connect to look like a single moving picture. In other words, an animated drawing. Susie Sheep complains that this is very difficult, and that's when Madame Gazelle says that patience is needed to make an animation, and looks straight at the screen. Even though it seems like Madame Gazelle is just talking to Susie, the truth is that this scene represents the Peppa Pig animators using Madame Gazelle to speak directly to the audience watching the show, almost as if they were venting about how complicated it is to animate each episode of Peppa Pig. Honestly, it even makes you feel a little bad for them. But we can't stop here just feeling sorry for the animators. We still have to tell you about all 13 times you didn't know Peppa Pig broke the fourth wall.
Get comfy and come with us, because another Cinewave is about to start.
The baby in the belly. Do you remember when Mummy Pig got pregnant with Peppa's younger baby sister, Evie? In the episode The Big Announcement, Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig reveal to Peppa and George that they are going to have a baby sister. The two little pigs, being as innocent as they are, start looking around for the baby. When Mummy Pig says that the baby is inside her belly, Peppa gets confused and asks how the baby ended up in there. Of course, Mummy Pig doesn't want to explain how that works and ends up passing the question to Daddy Pig, who in turn completely panics and stares at the screen as if he were asking us for help to get him out of that awkward situation. Seriously, he looked straight at us. The panic was so intense that Daddy Pig felt the need to break the fourth wall in search of help. The worst part is that only older fans truly understood the parents' desperation in that moment. Daddy Pig gets stuck. Sometimes breaking the fourth wall seems to reveal a slightly creepy side of the Peppa Pig universe, and we see this happen in the episode Soft Play, where several adults end up getting stuck inside a ball pit while trying to get the kids out. Seeing this, Daddy Pig decides that he's also going to try to get into the ball pit, but that's when he remembers all the many times he's gotten stuck in different places before, which is a recurring joke throughout the series. So Daddy Pig simply looks at the screen and says something like, "I'm going to get stuck, aren't I?" It really felt like he was asking us. The worst part is that even knowing his fate, Daddy Pig still tries to get into the ball pit, and yes, he ends up getting stuck. Because of this, many people believe that there is someone or something controlling the minds of the Peppa Pig characters, forcing them to do these things. But at certain moments, the characters briefly seem to realize that something is wrong and make these suspicious comments. Could that actually be true? The narrator's voice. This theory that something is very wrong with the show could also explain the bizarre fourth wall break that happens in the episode Rock Pools, where Peppa and George travel to the beach with their grandparents. They are very disappointed when they realize there is no sand there. The narrator, who has that well-known habit of stating the obvious, quickly says that Peppa and George like building sandcastles. But at that exact moment, the little pigs stare at the screen with frightened looks, as if they had actually heard the narrator's voice, even though the characters don't seem to hear him in most episodes. Immediately after what the narrator says, George starts crying. It seems like he's crying because there's no sand on the beach, but if you look at the scene from a different perspective, it's easy to imagine that Peppa's little brother was actually crying because he heard that mysterious voice talking about him as if it knew him perfectly. Latin. Peppa and George weren't the only ones who heard the narrator's voice. Another similar situation appears in the episode Wildflower Wood, when the narrator explains that Latin is a language that has existed for a very long time. While he says this, Edmund Elephant simply nods his head, showing that he heard everything the narrator said. Peppa and George were clearly terrified when they heard the narrator, but in Edmund's case, he wasn't impressed at all, as if he already knew about the narrator's existence and accepted that this was something completely normal. That actually makes sense, considering Edmund is smarter than all the other children his age, and even smarter than the adult characters, making him a true prodigy. Could it be that, precisely because of his intelligence, he already understands how the world of Peppa Pig works and knows that he's inside a TV show? Who knows? If you think this little elephant knows way more than he lets on, leave a comment below with #Edmund. Gazelle's lie. Speaking of Edmund, there was another time when he broke the fourth wall, and it happened in the episode Paper Games, the same one in which Madame Gazelle talks about about how difficult it is to animate drawings. At the beginning of the episode, the teacher sees the paper tower made by Molly Mole and says that it is the best thing she has ever seen in her entire life. Molly believes what Madame Gazelle says, but Edmund, being much smarter, doesn't fall for it and says, "Really?" while looking straight in our direction as if he wanted to tell us something like, "Wow, look at the nerve of this liar." Peppa and Mud. Believe it or not, Peppa has been breaking the fourth wall since the very beginning. Muddy Puddles is the first episode of the show, and one of the very first scenes shows the little pig jumping into a muddy puddle, obviously. But just to make it even clearer that the main character of the show is a pig, Peppa herself decides to stare straight into our souls and say that she loves jumping in muddy puddles. There's no excuse here. She simply looks at us and says it without even pretending she's talking to someone else. It's easy to understand why Peppa talks directly to the audience right in the very first episode, since the series needed to introduce the main character to kids and show what kind of person she is. But the narrator had already said that she loves jumping in muddy puddles just moments before she said it herself. In other words, she didn't even need to break the fourth wall, but she did it anyway, precisely to show that she has been capable of doing this from the very start. Mud on the screen. In The Golden Boots, it's not a specific character who breaks the fourth wall, but the cartoon itself. At the end of the episode, the kids jump so hard into a muddy puddle that the mud simply flies everywhere and splashes onto the screen. Yes, the mud splashes hit the screen as if they had splattered onto a camera that is recording the episodes of the show, which reminds us that we are watching a cartoon. Of course, some people interpret this scene as proof that there really is a camera filming the episodes from inside the world of Peppa Pig, as if the series also existed within that universe. Even more mud. If the screen got dirty in that episode, just imagine an episode called Muddy Festival. This time, it happens when Daddy Pig jumps into a huge pile of mud and causes an explosion of dirt that smashes straight into the screen. It can be interpreted as if Daddy Pig threw the mud so far that it ended up hitting the face of whoever is watching the episode. Either way, moments like this are absolutely hilarious. The opening. When you stop to think about it, every episode of Peppa Pig begins with the fourth wall being broken. In the opening, the little pig talks directly to us, introducing herself and also introducing her family members. There's no denying that this is a clear fourth wall break, but at least it's not something that truly happens within the story of the series, except when an episode makes a reference to it, like when Peppa gives that same introduction while appearing on television in TV Land, which feels more like a fun reference than an actual fourth wall break. What do you think? Do you agree that the opening doesn't really happen within the world of the series? Or do you think Peppa actually gives that introduction even when she's not being filmed? The truth about this could completely change everything we think about the little pig.
Don't forget, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure you never miss any of our videos.
Open windows. Of course, Miss Rabbit wouldn't miss the chance to break the fourth wall as well. She has so many jobs, so honestly, one of them might as well be being a professional fourth wall breaker. That would actually be pretty funny. In the episode Superhero Party, Miss Rabbit is holding a balloon and starts getting pulled upward because of it. Everyone gets very worried, but she says everything is fine as long as there aren't any open windows. Miss Rabbit says this directly to us because she knows we like her a lot and that we would be worried if something bad happened to her. In the end, there really was an open window and she ended up flying out of the party, but Super Potato thankfully managed to save her using his superpowers. 12. A full belly. Daddy Pig has another funny fourth wall breaking moment, and this scene appears in Fun Run where Daddy Pig starts running after having eaten. He can't run very far because he quickly gets tired, and at that moment he looks at us and says that he shouldn't have eaten so much spaghetti before going for a run. It's in situations like this that Peppa Pig shows why it's a children's cartoon, since Daddy Pig is breaking the fourth wall to say this specifically so that younger kids watching the show understand that it's wrong to run right after eating too much. He becomes an example of something that shouldn't be done, and this fourth wall break is used to make the message very clear. So remember, never go running right after stuffing yourself with food, okay? Cinderella. The Golden Boots had that scene with the mud splashing onto the screen, but there was another very fun fourth wall break in this episode. When Grandpa Pig tries to fit the golden boots he found onto the children's feet to figure out who they belong to, Wendy Wolf looks straight in our direction and says exactly what all of us are thinking. This looks a lot like the story of Cinderella.
Enjoying it? Then click one of the two videos we left on the screen and keep going with us. See you next time.